Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's show. My name is SHETAN NOIR, and this is High Strangeness in the Liminal Abyss. And boy, it's a hot one out there, but many of us, depending on whether you live by the Great Lakes or freshwater lakes, rivers, or the ocean, may be seeking to go cool off in those bodies of water. But here in the Great Lakes, particularly Lake Michigan area, you have to be concerned with not the lake monsters, not the ghost ships, not the UFOs or the devil's triangles, but the riptides, which are disturbingly frequent right now. So much that the Coast Guard is issuing warnings for all the Lake Michigan beaches, warning people about riptides. And while a lot of people like to go cool off in the Great Lakes, you have to be careful because Lake Michigan has the riptides. Lake Superior is very unpredictable and is not a sand beach, it's a gravel beach on most of its coastlines. Lake Huron is got lots of boulders and gravel. And Lake Erie has, usually by this time of the year, it has a nice toxic algae bloom spreading out across the lake. So you don't want to go fishing in that. You don't want to go swimming in that. You don't even want to be anywhere near that. So take heed with going to our Great Lakes because it's not the lake monsters that are going to get you. It's not the devil's triangle that you might get lost in, or a UFO that you might get sucked up into, or even a ghost ship that might sail you away to a different time and place. But the actual riptides and toxic algae blooms that could very well make this the worst summer you've ever experienced. And certainly we don't want that. If you are going to go out to Lake Michigan, look for the signage. There might be signage up saying riptides. Listen to any of the Coast Guards or any of the state park employees that are out there. You can even check for the local weather forecast to see if there are being riptides in that area. There's something about the way that Lake Michigan is formed that makes it so prevalent for the riptides, and they're very, very hard to get out of once you're sucked into them. You have to know how to angle your body into the water and how to actually swim to get out of the riptide and to protect yourself from actually being sucked under and being one of its drowned victims. So it's no wonder that Lake Michigan does have a high body count to it, not just from shipwrecks, but imagine all those poor sailors who got thrown into the water and then couldn't swim or couldn't fight against the riptides to get themselves free and never did make it to shore. You certainly don't want to join them at the bottoms of Lake Michigan. So just be careful when you're out there. And as for the toxic algae blooms, just avoid those. I mean, they're bad enough to kill all the fish, so you really don't want to get that on you or ingest it or get it in your eyes or your nose or your ears or your mouth or anything like that. Now, if you're going into the streams, you also have to be careful because with all of the huge storms that we're having come across the country at various times. Oh, allergies. The runoff into the streams and rivers can take those seemingly gentle waterways and turn them into rapids. And if you're out hiking, if you're out bigfooting, if you're out enjoying yourself in the woods, or gold panning, or rock hounding, or whatever you might be doing, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of weather patterns, and make sure that you have a easy, accessible way to get back up onto the banks if water is coming. Generally, you can hear it. If you hear a roaring sound coming down where you are, get out of there. Get yourself as high up onto the bank and away from the river's bank as you possibly can, because if you get swept up in that water, you're going to get washed downstream, and anything that's being washed downstream or river with it is going to be battering into you. So just be careful of that and be aware of that, and pay attention to your surroundings. Now, before we go into the rest of the show, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the salt water. Well, welcome back. So the second part of the show today, I'm going to focus more on the oceans. So recently we have seen an increase of reports of sharks around Florida. And I know a lot of people like to head to Florida for the beaches and Disneyland and things of that nature. You just have to be careful because they say that you're safe and up to knee-deep water. I have personally seen videos where sharks will actually chase the fish right up onto the beach and are flailing around with their mouths and their tails. If you're standing there, you're going to get bit. So just be careful. Listen to the lifeguards. Listen to news reports. If there's sharks spotted in an area, don't go there, because those sharks are doing what they are naturally supposed to do: eat fish, swim, or to quote the famous Jaws movie, all they do is eat, swim, and make more baby sharks. And that's what a shark does. But you also have to be careful of things like the alligators and crocodiles. And a lot of the fossil collectors that I know, this is something that they have to be careful of when they're going into the river systems, is the sharks, like the bull sharks, will swim from saltwater into freshwater. So you have to know where your rivers start and where they end. And if they have a possibility of going into or out of the ocean, then you have the possibility of a bull shark being in that river system. You also have to be aware of crocodiles and alligators. And even more so, you have to realize that they can haul themselves up onto banks. And even when you're kayaking down the river, canoeing down the river, or you're hiking along, It does not mean you're safe if you're in the water or on the banks, because they can still swim after you or chase you. So you have to be careful of those things. Um, so you just have to be careful going into the water. Other bodies of water, you have to worry about the stingrays, the jellyfish, stinging nettles. All of these are certainly something that you have to pay attention to. For people who like to go shell collecting and do that along the shore, you have to know about washed up jellyfish. There are also certain seashells that you don't want to pick up unless you know it's like empty, because the seashells like the um, alphabet comb and things like that, they can actually sting you. The comb seashells can actually sting you. And a lot of times their sting is so devastating that it can actually kill people by sending you into cardiac arrest. It's actually more powerful than a rattlesnake bite. So, all these things combined, you might want to just stick to a pool. Yeah, you might have to worry about maybe somebody peeing in it, but I think that would be, with the chlorine, probably not your worst, like, tragedy of the summer, but a riptide, toxic algae bloom, shark attack, alligator crocodile attack, being stung by something on the beach or in the water, those seem like they are not worth going into the water. Especially when it's avoidable. There's these wonderful things called pools that we can go into, and leave the nature to the nature. I know a lot of people like to go suntanning at the beach, and they like to hang out on the beach, and that's fine. You know, and if you can see straight through the water, sure, go into the water, but just be careful and realize that sharks can move a lot faster than you can. Um, Even the fastest recorded human swimmer cannot outswim a shark, even if it's a big, heavy shark like a great white. Um, they're faster than you are. So just, keep that in mind. Um, that's why you see these people up in shark towers, and when they start ringing that bell or they start whistling, pay attention to that and get out of the water, because it means that there is a large predator in the area that may or may not take a chunk out of you, which means you may or may not survive. Now, this is no means a spew on hating sharks. I love sharks. I think they are cool. Um, I still hope to go shark teeth collecting down in Florida, go shelling down in Florida. But there's a lot of things you have to be careful of. Just like up here in Michigan, we can go rock hounding all we want on the beaches, but when you start wading out into the water to grab that pretty stone or this or that, you have to be aware of what the current's doing, what the waves are doing, because you can get knocked off your feet in 6 inches of water and drug out into the water by a undertow or a predator. So just because it looks safe, just make sure you're safe and pay attention to things. And if you happen to be out there enjoying yourself on the beach or in the water, and you look up and you see a Sasquatch water skiing behind a Nessie, go ahead, send me the report. That might be interesting to look into. But until next time, stay safe out there and go and explore this wonderful world of ours, and stay curious out there. Until next week.